The underwater forests are slowly being destroyed by mankind. Coral is an underwater animal that attaches itself to the seafloor. They form around each other and create a forest of sorts, which is known as a coral reef. Coral reefs are safe havens for fish around the world. They create a place for fish to live and reproduce without the threat of predators. The largest problem today involving coral is the rapid production of greenhouse gases. Coral is an animal that lives on the seafloor where temperatures never change, but by fractions of degrees, so they have not evolved to handle any sort of temperature change. The coral cannot adapt fast enough to live with the rise of temperature, so they inevitably die. The three main reasons why coral and greenhouse gases is hurting is because of coral bleaching, coral disease, and coral acidification. Based on the survey in the 1960s and early 1970s, coral covering of the seafloor has went down by up to 50%. The 20th century, well, the last 2 decades of which were the hottest in the past 400 years, and possibly the warmest for several millennia, according to a number of climate studies. This fact is because of global warming, which is the increase of average world temperature, mainly because of greenhouse gases. Normally, the sun emits the heat that warms our planet, but only about 30% of the heat emitted from the sun reaches our planet. The heat that is transferred is absorbed by water or greenhouse gases that allow the heat to spread out. The problem there is that humans burn fossil fuels to provide energy for their everyday lives. They are releasing more greenhouse gases, in turn allowing for more heat to be absorbed. When more heat is absorbed, then average temperature around the planet rises and everything that was not prepared for the temperature will have a hard time adjusting. The first reason why coral is dying is because of coral bleaching. Coral bleaching is when the temperature of the ocean water changes and the coral dies, later turning white. The white color indicates that it is dead and thus gives the name coral bleaching. Coral reefs, which are sensitive to small changes in water temperature, has suffered the worst bleaching in history recorded since 1998, with some areas seeing bleaching rates of 70%. Coral naturally lives with other organisms, and one of the organisms is an algae that attaches to it. The coral and the algae live hand in hand, helping each other with things like food and protection. The relationship between the coral and the algae was formed millions of years ago and has been a large part in the coral's success. When the seawater changes temperatures, even if only slightly, the relationship between coral and algae degrades and the algae is forced out of the coral's body. The reason the coral turns white is because that coral is naturally white when the algae is not on it. Coral's outer layer is mostly calcium and forms a bone-like structure. The only reason that the coral has color is because of pigment in the algae. The second reason behind the loss of coral is based on global warming is the effect of spread of diseases. When water temperature rises, it puts coral under an unnecessary amount of stress and can alter its immune system. When its immune system is lessened, it allows for easier spread of diseases. Also, higher temperatures allow for bacterial and fungal diseases to be more active and or more virulent. One such disease that is more active when temperature rises is the black band disease that creates a black band around the coral made of bacteria. The bacteria will then slowly move around the coral, killing it. The last reason that coral is dying is because of water acidification. As humans burn fossil fuels, they put carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Once it gets into the atmosphere, it will quickly go into the ocean. When the CO2 gets into the ocean, it forms carbonic acid and in turn lowers the pH of the water. When the pH of the water changes, it stops coral from easily producing its calcium carbonate skeleton. This stops the coral from growing. A doubling of atmospheric carbon dioxide will reduce calcification in some coral by as much as 50%. The acid will also weaken the coral to disease and or coral bleaching. Some people believe that global warming and the disease in coral is a lie, or that it would just go in cycles of heat increase. Also, people believe that coral is an insignificant animal, but it plays a key role in most marine ecosystems. It helps to provide a place for fish to live and reproduce without the worry of another fish attacking them. Most of the time, humans are happier if their favorite fish is on sale, but they rarely do think that without coral they would not have as many fish to eat. Also, by the time we notice that the price of fish is going up because of the decrease in places for them to live, it would be too late. If human beings start now by cutting the emission of greenhouse gases, then the coral population may be saved and in turn a person's next bill on fish. All in all, greenhouse gases and global warming are drastically affecting coral. Humans may not see coral as a big influence in their lives, but without it, whole ecosystems would fail. The fish population would decrease, and a whole industry based on fishing would go under. So humans should change their ways now before it gets too late.